Today, I have an advanced English fluency masterclass to help you improve all areas of your English. In this masterclass, you'll improve your vocabulary, grammar, listening, pronunciation, and speaking. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Do you know the difference between these two sentences? She called me out in the meeting. She called out to me in the meeting. Both of these sentences use a similar looking but different phrasal verb. To call someone out, to call out to someone. Yes, they look very similar, almost identical, but they have completely different meanings. Today you'll learn these phrasal verbs and 21 more. I personally use these 23 phrasal verbs every day, and adding these to your vocabulary will help you understand natives and sound fluent and natural. First, let's talk about to call someone out. This means to confront or criticize someone, often publicly, for their actions or behaviors. She called him out for not keeping his promises. This means that in public, she said, you didn't keep your promise, and that was a bad thing. She called him out. Now, my students, maybe even you, always call me out when I make a typo. They publicly say, Jennifer, you spelled that wrong. Jennifer, this isn't correct. But that's okay. I don't mind.
Bert's calling me out? Oh, apparently.
Called him out loudly.
It's interesting to hear them call us out on that.
Now let's compare this to call out to someone. This means to shout or raise your voice to get someone's attention. Hey John, hey Mary. He called out to his friend across the street. He did this to get her or his attention. So now let's compare these. He called out his friend. This is grammatically correct. It means to publicly criticize. He called out to his friend. This is grammatically correct. It means he shouted to get his friend's attention. Hey, John. I know this is very confusing, so you'll want to review it. I provide everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's talk about jump in. When you jump in, it means you enter a conversation or a situation. So I could say to you, if we were in a class or a meeting, a live lesson, feel free to jump in with any ideas. I'm inviting you to stop me in the middle of my presentation to share your ideas. Or maybe managers are talking and say, it's nice to see Sarah jumping in at meetings. They're saying it's nice to see Sarah participating, sharing her ideas more actively, maybe because she feels confident speaking in English.
I'm gonna jump in, so I want to make sure I get this one in and lighten it up just a minute.
Please feel free to jump in at any point.
Now, just like my examples show, this is generally used in a positive way. And that's important because let's compare that to butt in. Butt in. This means to interrupt or intrude into a conversation in a negative way. He kept butting in while I was presenting. He kept stopping me to say something, and I found this very rude.
Just butting in here for some side facts.
Or you could say, you should just butt out. Butt out. It's none of your business. So notice here, I changed butt in to butt out. This means you should stop intruding in something that doesn't concern you.
Butt out, Klaus.
So let's review. Jump or butt into a conversation, discussion, meeting, or situation. Notice you need into as one word if you specify the noun, a conversation. And butt out of a conversation, discussion, meeting, or situation. So remember the meaning and that structure. Next, let's talk about to come up with. This means to think of or create something, such as an idea, plan, or solution. They came up with a new marketing strategy they thought of, they created.
Because Louis Pasteur came up with his technique for sterilizing milk in 1865.
I spend time every day coming up with new lessons for you. I think about ideas, I write them down, I brainstorm for you.
What'd you come up with?
So now let's change the preposition and talk about to come out with. This means to introduce or release something new, usually a product or service. The way we communicate changed when Apple came out with the iPhone.
If we were sitting down having this interview the day that Apple came out with the iPhone, you'd be asking me, really? They're going to compete with Motorola?
Electric typewriters then came out with self-contained correction ribbons so that you could make corrections right there on the machine as you typed.
Let's compare these together. Engineers at Apple came up with the idea of a smartphone in 2005. I don't know if that date is accurate. This means they thought of the idea. What if we had a phone? Now, Apple came out with the iPhone in 2007. That date is correct. This means they released the idea to the public as a product, the product being the iPhone. You could buy the iPhone. Let's review to back out of something. This means to decide not to do something you had previously agreed to. She backed out of the deal at the last minute.
Why are you backing out?
Or you said you were going to finish the English course. Don't back out now.
Don't even think about backing out, man.
Let's compare this to back something up. This means to make a copy of data to prevent loss, something you should do. For years, my husband told me I should back up my computer, but I didn't listen.
Didn't you back it up in your computer?
But now that I use Google Docs, my files are automatically backed up. A copy of my files are saved in a secure location. So always back up your computer and don't back out of things you said you were going to do.
Where do you back up your data?
To catch on to something. This is when you begin to understand or realize something. It took him a while, but he finally caught on to the joke. Now, you don't have to include the something if context is obvious. You could say, it took him a while, but he finally caught on, if you're talking about a joke and the context is obvious.
But she caught on pretty fast.
But either way, people caught on to coffee's advantages and began making tea from its leaves.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. So let's talk about catch up to someone. This means to reach the same level or pace as someone else. She's driving too fast. We'll never catch up. You can say, we'll never catch up or catch up to her. If you specify the someone, you need the preposition to.
Hurry! They're catching up!
Now let's look at this sentence. I need to catch up on my work so I can catch up to my coworker. When you catch up on something, it means you do the tasks that you missed or were not previously completed.
With students able to catch up on work over a coffee in the new cafe.
Let's talk about to get across. This means to successfully communicate or convey an idea to others. He tried to get his point across, to get something across, his point across in the meeting.
That'll get our point across, right?
Or, I'm not sure what you're trying to get across. Ooh, maybe you need to say it a different way.
Anyways, the point that I'm trying to get across is that social media has made everything just that much more accessible.
Number 12, I love this one, to cheer on. This is when you encourage or support someone, often vocally. Let's go, woohoo, you can do it. The fans cheered on their team. And I could say to you, if you leave a comment, that is your way of supporting me vocally. So I could say, thank you for cheering me on. I couldn't have done it without your support.
Who cheered us on and picked us up when we stumbled.
Someone will be there to cheer us on and pick us up if we fall.
Let's compare this to cheer up. This means to help someone feel happier or to become happier oneself. I brought him a coffee to cheer him up.
Cheer up. They try with considerable vigor to cheer us up.
Or let's combine these. The fact that you came to cheer me on, let's go Jennifer, that really cheered me up, made me happier. Number 14, carry on. Most students know this. This means to continue with an activity or task despite challenges. She decided to carry on with her studies despite the difficulties.
Carry on.
Let's compare this to carry out. This means to complete or perform an action plan or task. They carried out the experiment successfully.
And we carried it out as a family.
Let's combine these. Let's carry on with the experiments. Notice you need with when you specify the something. Let's carry on with the experiments. Have you carried out? Have you conducted the first test? So remember, you carry on with something and you carry something out. Number 16, to look into something. This means to investigate or examine something in detail. The company is looking into the issue.
I'll look into it.
Let's compare this to look over something. This means to review or examine something briefly or casually. She looked over the document before signing.
Look over this contract.
Let's combine these together. I looked into, I investigated, I looked into the company, and I didn't find any red flags. Red flags are potential risks or problems. I didn't find any red flags. I still need to look over, review the contract. Let's review to check in with someone. This means to communicate with someone to see how they're doing or if they need assistance. He checked in with his supervisor before leaving for the day. So how could he do this? Well, he would go up to his supervisor and say, do you need anything before I leave?
Thanks for checking in, though.
Now let's compare this to check up on someone. This is when you monitor or observe someone's progress, condition, or behavior to ensure all is well. My dad had an accident, so I check up on him. I observe him and monitor him every day.
Will it kill him to check up on us?
Sometimes to check up on someone is seen as a negative because it suggests that you don't trust someone's abilities. So you often hear people complain and say, oh, my boss checks up on me every 5 minutes, suggesting your boss doesn't trust your abilities and needs to monitor you closely.
Are you checking up on me?
Number 20, hang out. You should know this one. This means to spend time with someone socially in a casual way. We hung out at home all weekend. Or it's very common to say to people, let's hang out soon. Let's spend time socially soon.
Cool, let's hang out tonight.
Don't confuse this with to hang up, which means to end a phone call. She hung up before they decided where to hang out.
Don't hang up, don't hang up, don't hang up, don't hang up.
22, to break up with someone. Do you know what this means? This means to end a romantic relationship. He broke up with his girlfriend last month.
Are you breaking up with me?
Now, you could also say we broke up. So in this case, because the subject is doing the action, you don't have to say with someone. We broke up. I broke up with him. He broke up with me. We broke up.
We broke up.
Don't confuse this with to break something up. This means to separate something into smaller parts. The teacher broke up the assignment into 3 parts.
From this point, we're going to take the life of the project and break it up into 4 phases so that we can discuss the processes that are appropriate to each.
So if you say, I broke her up, that sounds weird. That sounds like you divided her into smaller parts. But if you say, I broke up with her, that sounds sad. You ended your romantic relationship with her. Amazing job expanding your vocabulary with phrasal verbs. Now let's keep expanding your vocabulary, but we'll do this as a listening exercise using real-world clips so you improve your listening skills at the same time. In this lesson, you'll listen to a video clip of a fast-speaking native, and you need to complete the missing words. You'll listen to each clip twice. Are you ready for the first clip? Remember, you need to fill in the missing words.
It's worth mentioning we're going to have to be pretty frank about the human body and some of the more icky parts when studying outbreaks. It's worth mentioning we're going to have to be pretty frank about the human body and some of the more icky parts when studying outbreaks.
How'd you do with this one? She said it's worth mentioning we're going to have to be pretty frank about the human body and some of the more icky parts when studying outbreaks. Did you get that? Let's review the pronunciation. So notice were. Native speakers like using contractions and we pronounce them in an unstressed way. Were. This is, of course, we are. Now she said going to, but as you may know, native speakers commonly reduce going to as gonna, but this is in spoken English only. Now, native speakers also combine sounds together. So here we have some of the. Instead of saying of, you can just do an unstressed some of the. So it sounds like one word. Repeat after me, some of the. Let's talk about some grammar and vocabulary. Notice one of your missing words was mentioning, and that's because to be worth plus gerund verb. So I wanted to remind you, or perhaps help you learn, that you need the gerund with this expression. So worth is a gerund verb. To be worth doing something. For example, it's worth to be. It is as a contraction. It's worth subscribing to JForrest English. Now, if a friend asks you, should I subscribe to JForrest English? You can say, yes, it's worth it. It's worth it. What's the it? It's worth subscribing. So it represents the gerund. It's worth subscribing. And if you want to sound like a native, you can add totally. It's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. Do you agree with that? If you do, put that's right, put that's right in the comments. And don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Let's talk about to be frank. This means to speak honestly, directly, or openly, often about something uncomfortable. We often use this to start a sentence. To be frank, I thought you were rude to your mother. So that might be something that's uncomfortable to tell someone. And she used pretty to be pretty frank. This is simply an intensifier. Now, did you hear the word icky? Icky? This is an informal way of something as unpleasant, gross, or distasteful. Cleaning the bathroom, it's so icky. Wouldn't you agree? Or you could say, you have some icky stuff on your shirt, some gross stuff. Are you ready for your next listening exercise? Remember, you need to complete the missing words. You'll hear it twice.
I'll level with you. Before we started making this movie, I'd never been on a pair of skis in my life. I'll level with you. Before we started making this movie, I'd never been on a pair of skis in my life.
Could you complete the missing words? I've got to level with you. Before we started making this movie, I'd never been on a pair of skis in my life. Just like going to becomes gonna, got to becomes gotta in spoken English. And again, those contractions which are difficult to hear, I had, a very soft D, I'd. Now, instead of saying of, you can reduce that to just simply but then combine them together. Paraskis. Now let's talk about those missing words. To level with someone. This means to share a surprising or harsh truth. A harsh truth is an uncomfortable truth. So you can say, I have to level with you. I don't like ice cream. Now, Americans commonly say, I gotta level with you. I gotta level with you. I have to level with you. I gotta level with you. They're the same thing. And the fact that I don't like ice cream could be a surprising truth. I gotta level with you. Or you can say, I have to level with you. I gotta level with you. Your performance has been slipping, going down, slipping. So this is a harsh truth. It's honest and direct. Because of that, you can also use that expression we learned, to be frank. I have to be frank with you. Your performance has been slipping. Here's your next listening exercise. You'll hear it twice.
I think a lot of people will reflect on their previous year and think, you know what is the one thing I want to work on? I think a lot of people will reflect on their previous year and think, you know what is the one thing I want to work on?
How'd you do with this one? Was it easy or difficult for you? I think a lot of people will reflect on their previous year and think, you know what? What is the one thing I want to work on? Let's talk about those pronunciation changes. A lot of becomes a lotta. Now, reflect on, because you have that T sound, you can transfer it to the next sound and say reflect on. So it sounds like one word. You can do this with work on. So it sounds like one word. You know what may have been difficult to hear because it becomes unstressed. Yeah, you know what? And want to becomes wanna. Now I wanted you to pay attention to reflect on and work on so you notice those prepositions. When you're learning vocabulary, you should also learn the preposition that completes the verb, because if you get the preposition wrong, it won't sound correct. So to reflect on something, this means to think deeply or carefully about something, usually before making decisions. For example, after the meeting, I reflected on the feedback my boss gave me. Maybe he had to level with you. Maybe he had to give you some frank feedback, honest and direct. And you reflected on that, which is a mature thing to do. Let's talk about, you know what? This is an interjection. So it's used to introduce a thought, or it's simply to create a pause in a conversation. So you can say, we should host a party for your sister's birthday, but that might sound very abrupt. So if you want to transition or create a pause, introduce an idea, you can use an interjection. You know what? We should host a party for your sister's birthday. So by saying, you know what, you get someone's attention and then they're ready to hear your idea. Get ready for the next listening exercise. You'll hear it twice.
Watch this video and get the scoop on a little-known storytelling technique that'll crank up the believability of your message. Watch this video and get the scoop on a little-known storytelling technique that'll crank up the believability of your message.
Was this more difficult for you? Watch this video and get The scoop on a little known storytelling technique that'll crank up the believability of your message. Instead of saying scoop on a with pauses, you can pronounce this as one word. Scoop on a, scoop on a, scoop on a, scoop on a. Little may have been difficult to hear because that's not how native speakers say it. We say little, little. That'll is a contraction of that will, that'll. Let's review the vocabulary. The scoop, do you know this one? This means insider information or the latest secret or exclusive details. Can you get the scoop on who's getting the promotion? So I'm asking you to get the exclusive information or the latest secret details. Or I could ask what? What's the scoop on the promotion? Do you know the latest details? Or I could say, who knows the scoop on the promotion? So who has the secret or latest details? What if I said to you, ooh, it's cold in here. Crank up the heat. What would you do to the heat? Or how about, I love this song. Crank it up. Crank it up. What would you do? To crank up means to increase the intensity, volume, or level of something. Now in this case, the something was the believability, which is a noun. And this is the quality or state of being believable, which is the adjective. So to be believable. I could say to my friend, you didn't win the lottery? You were so believable. I believed my friend because she's believable. Or I could say, to be frank, the story lacked believability. So it lacked the quality of being believable. Or I could say, I have to level with you. I gotta level with you. The story lacked believability. So look for ways you can mix and match all the vocabulary that you're learning. One more listening exercise, you'll hear it twice.
All right, we've been planning for months. Let's do it. It's go time. All right, we've been planning for months. Let's do it. It's go time.
Did you get that first word? All right. We've been planning for months. Let's do it. It's go time. Now you may not have heard that first word again because of reducing sounds. So instead of saying all right, native speakers commonly say all right, all right, all right. So it can be very unstressed or a little bit unstressed. It depends on the speaker. This one was quite unstressed. We've is of course we have. For sounds like fur, very unstressed. And do it, to get rid of that pause, you can add a very soft w. Do it, do it, do it. But when you say it as one word, you don't hear it. Do it, do it, do it. All right is used as both an interjection or confirmation. So if someone says, let's meet at 2 to discuss the project, you can say, all right, to confirm. Or you can start the discussion by saying, all right, let's review the sales reports. So in this case, it's an interjection. It gets attention and it signals readiness to start. Let's look at let's do it. I say this a lot, so maybe you've heard it from me. This is an informal way to signal readiness to act. I could say, today you'll learn 20 phrasal verbs. Are you ready? And you can reply back and say, let's do it, Jennifer. Or your friend could ask you, should we sign up for that cooking class? And you say, let's do it, let's do it. Let's look at it's go time. I love this one. This is an informal way to say, now is the time to act. This is the moment we've been waiting for. And it's commonly used with a lot of energy and excitement. So you can imagine before a sports game or a big presentation, someone says, it's go time. You're doing a great job. Now let's focus on your grammar and vocabulary at the same time. You'll learn important English collocations. Let's do something fun. You'll learn these collocations by completing a quiz. You'll see a sentence on the screen with a blank, and you need to choose the correct word in 5 seconds. After, you'll learn the correct collocation, see an example sentence, and listen to natives using the collocation in real speech. Are you ready? Question 1. He promised he wouldn't lie, but he decided to his promise. The correct answer is B. To break a promise. This means to fail to do what one has promised to do. 5 years ago, I promised to post a new English lesson every week on my YouTube channel, and I haven't broken that promise. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
If I break a promise, I have done something wrong, even if the consequences of breaking the promise are slightly better than the consequences of keeping the promise.
You break a promise with God, you're sinning.
And we'll break our promise. It doesn't really matter.
Question 2. A great handshake can leave a impression. The correct answer is A. A lasting impression. This is an effect, feeling, or memory that remains in one's mind for a long time. So hopefully, after this lesson, you might say, this lesson left a lasting impression on me, which means you remember all these new collocations, the pronunciation, and everything you've learned. Don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
And the thing that left a long-lasting impression on me was how the people I met in South Africa could envision a better future for themselves and their country.
Now that's honesty and integrity, and it's also why Faye's performances left such a lasting impression.
A simple act of kindness can make a lasting impression and make a huge difference in a person's life.
Question 3. She has a workload this month and needs extra help. The correct answer is C, a heavy workload. I hear a lot of students say a big workload, but the correct collocation is heavy, a heavy workload. And of course, this is a large amount of work. You might say it's hard to study English because of my heavy workload. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
How does she juggle all that heavy workload and be president of the sorority?
The number one hindrance to good teaching is heavy workload.
It's definitely been a pretty heavy workload.
Question 4. After finishing the project, she finally has a workload. The correct answer is C. The opposite of heavy, which means big, is light, which means a small amount of work. So hopefully you say, now that I have a light workload, I can watch all your lessons. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
The workload was so light to do compositor-based operations compared to doing layout and paint that we can now fit it comfortably inside the 60 frames a second budget.
To lighten your workload.
Question 5. To succeed, you need to be proactive and initiative. The correct answer is A, and take initiative. If you take initiative, it means you're the first to take action to achieve a goal or to solve a problem. For example, he took initiative to find a speaking partner, and that's exactly what you need to do. There are people everywhere who want to practice speaking, but you need to take initiative to find one. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
Who are going to take initiative, not just do the minimum daily requirement.
people expect you to do things on your own here. They expect you to take initiative.
They're thinking, that person doesn't take initiative. I guess they're not really a leader.
How are you doing so far with this quiz? Question 6, the campaign started slow, but began to momentum. The correct answer is B, to gain momentum. This means to progress or move forward at an increasing pace. As my English fluency and confidence grew, I gained momentum in my career. So your success in your career increased at a faster and faster pace. That's what Fluent English can help you accomplish. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
Now, as SPACs gain momentum, more blue-chip institutions and veteran investors are buying in.
Slowly but surely, we began to gain momentum.
We gained momentum by using the cupcakes for this documentary, which was one of the clips that I showed earlier.
Question 7, her speech had an impact on everyone in the room. The correct answer is C, a profound impact. This means a very significant or deep impact. You might say, my childhood teacher had a profound impact on my English skills. You still remember those important lessons from your teacher today. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
Words are that powerful. They not only affect your interior psychology and your identity, they have a profound impact on the world around you.
It's something so simple and yet has such a profound impact.
So you don't have to know someone well to have a profound impact on them.
Question 8, in order to pass the inspection, our products need to standards. The correct answer is B, to meet standards. If you meet a standard, this means you reach the expected level of quality or requirements. This is often used with products or services. All products must meet safety standards before being sold. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
How often do judges not meet standards?
And we're going to close places that don't meet standards and which are harmful to people.
They don't have to meet standards, and that is very, very dangerous.
Question 9, the proposal was accepted by a majority of the team. The correct answer is A, an overwhelming majority. This means a very large percentage or proportion. There isn't a specific number, but I would personally say it would be 75% or more to be considered an overwhelming majority. Maybe an overwhelming majority of students, 75% or more, prefer learning English online. What do you think? Let's listen to some real-world examples.
The overwhelming majority, they work really hard doing really important stuff.
And the overwhelming majority said no. And many Nebraskans, I believe, an overwhelming majority, believe the death penalty is a part of that public safety focus, of which I firmly believe in.
Question 10, we had a discussion about the project challenges. The correct answer is C. A frank discussion is one that is open, honest, and straightforward. For example, we need to have a frank discussion about the client's expectations. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
Having frank, detailed, and honest discussions on how you'll handle joint versus solo finances will guarantee that there won't be any surprises once you're married.
And I thought it was a good and useful and frank discussion.
And so
Our focus is on having a frank discussion, raising issues where we have concerns, and of course looking for ways and places where we can work together.
You're doing a great job. Think of everything that you're learning. Let's keep going. Question 11. He decided to responsibility for his actions. The correct answer is A, to take responsibility. This is when you accept responsibility. For example, you could be frank, you could be honest and open and straightforward, to be frank, and say, I take full responsibility for the project delay. This is a very mature thing to do. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
Training Afghan forces to take responsibility for their own security.
He said, someone, you, has to take responsibility.
We must take responsibility now for our role in this crisis, a crisis in which the origins can be traced back to the onset of the Anthropocene era.
Question 12, the board will approval for the new policy next week. The correct answer is B, to grant approval. This means to officially agree to or allow something. The team needs to wait until the director grants approval. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
The Queen must grant her approval before the gown can even start being made.
He added the ministry will quickly grant approval if companies apply for an extension in working hours to expand domestic production.
Question 13. Both parties finally reached an agreement. The correct answer is A, a mutual agreement. This is one that all people involved, there could be 2 people, 5 people, or 12 people, but all people involved accept. We reached a mutual agreement to reduce the budget. Everyone agreed, yes, let's reduce the budget. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
It's a mutual agreement in a group that you will put the welfare of the group, you will put the safety of everyone in the group above your own.
And we talked about issues by mutual agreement. That practice helped me a great deal because I came to understand Ronald Reagan.
This mutual agreement between the parent and child was a really nice cooperative strategy, but somehow it just wasn't working for them.
Question 14. The project had an influence on the younger team members. The correct answer is B. A positive influence is, of course, one that leads to improvements. You might say learning English has had a positive influence on my life because it has helped you gain momentum. Remember that one, to gain momentum. Let's listen to some real-world examples.
She is a role model, a positive influence, and has a powerful ability to motivate others.
We're going to be a positive influence to everybody around us.
We're talking about being a positive influence in their communities, making a difference.
Question 15. By introducing this new feature, the company gained an advantage. The correct answer is B, competitive. The adjective form. A competitive advantage is something that allows someone, a person, or even a company, a team, to outperform, to perform better than others. Again, you might say being fluent in English gives you a competitive advantage in today's global world. Do you agree with that? Let's listen to some real-world examples.
It's going to be a competitive advantage for us. And one of the things we decided was, how can we reinvent the office?
Leverage your sources of unfair competitive advantage, but make sure you reinvent yourself before disruption leaves you with no other option but to do so.
What really is a company's most competitive advantage? It's people.
We know this.
Amazing job. Now we'll read a news article together on an interesting topic. And this reading and listening method will help you improve all areas of your English. Our headline, scientists may have solved mystery behind Egypt's pyramids. Now there is one article missing in this headline that's required grammatically. Do you know where that article should go? Scientists may have solved the mystery, because mystery is a noun, a singular countable noun. So it requires an article, the, because it's a specific mystery. A would be any mystery. Now notice here, Egypt's pyramids. Pyramids is a noun. It's in plural, so the article is optional. But here we have a possessive. Possessives replace articles. Remember though that adjectives do not replace articles. So here, if you said Egyptian, Egyptian is an adjective. Egypt is the noun, and adding the apostrophe s makes it a possessive noun. Egypt's pyramids. The pyramids belong to Egypt, but Egyptian is an adjective. Egyptian pyramids. So in this case, the is required. The pyramids, specific, the Egyptian pyramids. Notice another very important word, may. This is important because may is a modal verb of possibility. So when they say Egyptians may have solved, this is just one possibility. Another possibility is that they have not solved. So this is not conclusive. It's not a fact. It's just a possibility. So if I ask you to subscribe to my channel and you say, Jennifer, I may subscribe, this isn't the best news. It's not the worst news, but it's not the best news. If you say, I will subscribe, then that's good news because will is a commitment. You use this to say, I commit, I promise. So if you want to show your support to me and my channel because you enjoy these lessons, put that's right, put that's right in the comments. And don't worry about taking these notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's continue and learn about this mystery. Scientists believe they may have solved the mystery. Notice the mystery because now we're in the body of the article. So all the grammar requirements like articles, auxiliary verbs are required, whereas in the headline, they can be omitted. They may have solved the potential because of this modal of potential, may have solved the mystery of how 31 pyramids, including the world famous Giza complex, were built. Notice this, we have were, but then we have the world famous Giza complex, which is just one, the complex. So why is it were? Well, remember that it's actually being conjugated with pyramids. This is the subject of the sentence that the verb is being conjugated with. The pyramids were built. This additional information, notice that it's between commas. It means it can be removed from the sentence and the sentence is still grammatically correct. So this part is not the subject of the sentence, it's pyramids. 31 pyramids were built in Egypt more than 4,000 years ago. Let's review these two sentences. I solved the problem. What verb tense is this? Very simple, right? I solved the problem. This is the past simple. It's a completed past action. Because you use the past simple, it sounds like a fact. There is no doubt about this. I solved the problem. This happened. It's a fact. But if you say I may, this is our modal verb. And then notice we have this perfect construction. I may have solved the problem. This is the possibility of a past action. I may have solved the problem. I may have passed the exam, for example. If you want to show some doubt, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. So this is a great construction to practice and to compare against the past simple, which sounds like a fact. A research team has discovered, now notice team is our collective noun. So a team is made up of many individuals, but is conjugated as third person singular in American English. A research team, a research group, for example, has discovered. What verb tense is this? It's the present perfect. It's a completed past action with the result in the present. The result in the present is now you know how the pyramids were built. Maybe, because may have. A research team has discovered that the pyramids, because they're specific pyramids. If you were talking about pyramids in general, you don't need an article. You could say pyramids are beautiful. This is pyramids in general. Any pyramid in the world. Pyramids in general are beautiful. The pyramids in Egypt, the Egyptian pyramids are beautiful. So in that case, you use the article because it's specific pyramids. Remember that a possessive noun replaces an article. So in this last one, Egypt's pyramids, you don't need an article, are beautiful. That the pyramids are likely to have been built. Another word of possibility. Likely to have been built. Again, this means that this is just a maybe, but likely sounds like 80%, whereas maybe is more 50-50. I'll likely go to the party is 80%. Maybe I'll go, I may go is more 50-50. So the pyramids are likely to have been built along a long-lost ancient branch of the Nile River. For many years, archaeologists, repeat after me, archaeologists, archaeologists. Archaeologists have thought, notice again our present perfect, because if it's for many years, it means it started in the past and continues until now. For many years, archaeologists have thought that ancient Egyptians must have used a nearby waterway to transport materials, such as the stone blocks needed to build the pyramids on the river. We have another modal of possibility in the perfect construction. Must have used. This is still a possibility, so it is not a fact. It's a possibility. But it's a strong degree of possibility, maybe 85, 90, 95% possible. Let's look at a realistic example. Maybe I could say to you, you must have passed the test. You studied for months. So I'm saying there's a strong possibility, 80, 90, 95%, because you studied for months. Now, I could use may. You may have passed the test. If I use may, it's less likely, maybe 50-50. So I would probably change my next part. You studied a fair amount, because in this case, there's an equal possibility that you'll fail the test. So this is, again, a useful construction to practice. Up until now, nobody was certain of the location, the shape, the size, or proximity of this mega waterway to the actual pyramid's site. Let's look at this time reference, up until now. Perhaps you're more familiar with simply until now. If you're not, don't worry. It simply means from the past to this moment in time. Up until now, adding this word up is the exact same thing. It does not change the meaning. It sounds a little more conversational, a little more informal, but the meaning is the same. So you can say, up until now, I've been using my old laptop. So this is from the past until this time that I'm saying these words, up until now. You could say, until now, I didn't realize how much faster newer models are. Again, this entire past period, and it extends to the moment I'm saying these words. Again, they're the same time reference. There's no difference in meaning. This one is slightly more conversational. Let's continue. In a cross-continental effort, cross-continental means it spans continents. So it goes from one continent to another. You hear this a lot with cross-country, cross-city, cross-neighborhoods. You can have any geographical area. In a cross-continental effort, now notice here, cross-continental functions as an adjective because you have in an effort, and then what type of effort. So this gives you more information about the noun. And then you always modify your article with what's directly in front of it. So if you didn't have this word, it would be an effort because this is a vowel sound. But now your article matches with the adjective. In a cross-continental effort, the group of researchers used radar satellite imagery to map the river branch, which they believe was buried. Notice this pronunciation. Don't look at the spelling because it doesn't have this sound. It's the same as a strawberry, berry, airy, buried, and then you just add a D at the end. Buried, buried. Was buried by a major, oh, what about this? How do you pronounce this? Say it. Drought, out. Out. So leave, out, out. It's that sound, out, and then with a dr, drought, drought. And of course, a drought is a long period of no water, no rain. Drought and sandstorms thousands of years ago. Believe is another word that suggests this isn't fact, it's possibility. They believe, they think was buried by a major drought, but they don't know for sure. Otherwise, the wording would be different. They could say which they know, which they are certain was buried. So the word choice you use is important because it conveys a lot of information. It shares a lot of information. So in this case, we know this is just a possibility. It's not presented as fact at this point. The team was able to penetrate the sand surface and produce images of hidden features by using the radar technology. Remember that team is a collective noun in American English, so it's conjugated as third person singular. The team was able. You could also say the researchers, which is clearly plural. You have the S here. The researchers, in this case, it's they were able. What if I said the team of researchers? The team of researchers. In this case, do you need was or were? What do you think? Was or were? Put your answer in the comments or say it out loud now. The answer is the team of researchers. What do you think? Team of researchers was, because it's the team that the verb is being conjugated with, not of researchers. This is additional information. It's the team. The team was. The team of researchers was able to penetrate the sand surface and produce images of hidden features by using the radar technology. Let's continue. Among those features, so remember these hidden features that they were able to produce. Among those features were, how do you say this? Say it out loud. Were buried, like a strawberry, buried rivers. Among those features were buried rivers, so rivers that were below the surface, buried rivers and ancient structures running at the foothills of where the vast majority of the ancient Egyptian pyramids lie. So this is under the surface of the current pyramids, which are, of course, visible above the surface. The waterway could have been used for the transportation of heavier blocks, equipment, and people. So this is the waterway they found buried underneath, and they used this radar technology to produce. But again, we have these words of possibility. Could have been used. Could have been used. Now, the use of all of the past is because, of course, this takes place in the past. That's why everything is expressed in the past. And then they're using modals of possibility because, of course, they're not saying they know the mystery of the pyramids. They have a theory. They have some information. It's not fact at this point. It's possibility. Could, in terms of possibility, is used to say there's one possibility. This is one possibility, but there are other options. So it sounds like a lower level of possibility compared to may, which was medium, and then must, which was the highest. The discovery of this extinct river branch helps explain the high pyramid density. So the high pyramid density means the high number of pyramids in a certain area. And the area is between Giza and Gist. I'm not sure how to say this. I'll call it Gist. I don't know where this is. And generally they provide information when it's not common knowledge. Perhaps you know what Gist is. I don't. So thankfully they tell us it's the site of Middle Kingdom. Oh, how do you say this? Burials. Burials. So a burial is with deceased people, part of the funeral process. Burial, burial, bury, burial. So apparently Gist is the site where deceased people in the Middle Kingdom were placed underground, were buried, in what is now an inhospitable area of the Saharan desert. In this context, inhospitable, repeat after me, inhospitable, hospitable. Inhospitable means not suitable for humans to live in. So the conditions are not suitable for humans to live in. This has a different meaning in the context of guests. So visitors to your home. If you are inhospitable, it means you're not welcoming, you're not friendly, you're not generous, you're not warm to visitors in your home. So we only use this with visitors in your home. So for example, if I don't cook dinner, your family will think I'm inhospitable. So it's used as an adjective to describe me not being generous or welcoming to the visitors in my home. So you don't want to be inhospitable most of the time. Let's continue. The river branches proximity to the pyramid complexes. So here, proximity means how close it is. So it's saying that the river branches being close to the complex of the pyramids suggests that it was active and operational during the construction phase of these pyramids. And this is the evidence they have to suggest that they've solved the mystery of how the pyramids were built. But again, they don't have concrete evidence, so they can't present it as facts, which is why we saw all the modals of possibility. And that's the end of the article. So what I'll do now is I'll read the article from start to finish, and you can focus on my pronunciation. Scientists may have solved mystery behind Egypt's pyramids. Scientists believe they may have solved the mystery of how 31 pyramids, including the world-famous Giza complex, were built in Egypt more than 4,000 years ago. A research team has discovered that the pyramids are likely to have been built along a long-lost ancient branch of the Nile River. For many years, archaeologists have thought that ancient Egyptians must have used a nearby waterway to transport materials such as the stone blocks needed to build the pyramids on the river. Up until now, nobody was certain of the location, the shape, the size, or proximity of this mega waterway to the actual pyramid site.
In a cross-continental effort, the group of researchers used radar satellite imagery to map the river branch, which they believe was buried by a major drought and sandstorms thousands of years ago. The team was able to penetrate the sand surface and produce images of hidden features by using the radar technology. Among those features were buried rivers and ancient structures running at the foothills of where the vast majority of the ancient Egyptian pyramids lie. The waterway could have been used for the transportation of heavier blocks, equipment, and people. The discovery of this extinct river branch helps explain the high pyramid density between Giza and Gizeh, the site of Middle Kingdom burials, in what is now an inhospitable area of the Saharan desert. The river branch's proximity to the pyramid complexes suggests that it was active and operational during the construction phase of these pyramids.
Do you want me to make another lesson just like this? If you do, put let's go, put let's go in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another news lesson I know you'll love, so make sure you watch it now.